Welcome back to Brawlmaster Unscripted. This is the segment where I answer an assortment of questions, be they thoughtful or stupid. Let's start off with a question from the Divert Realm. In your opinion, what has been the main influence behind the common stereotype that animated shows are childish? Marketing, specific shows, etc. I think marketing is definitely a big part of it. I think people kind of tend to look down on stuff that isn't immediately targeted towards them. They think if it's not meant for me, then it must be childish because I'm above it now. I've kind of outgrown it. And so it's not really worth my time. It doesn't meet my standards anymore. But this might sound like a weird theory. I also think it has a lot to do with the colors and the suspension of disbelief towards the movement and the physics and things that are accomplished in animation. The things that aren't realistic that can be done because it's animation, because it isn't real. I think that stuff that isn't considered childish is much more subdued in its color palette. There's a lot less variety in what's on screen. There's a lot less light. There's less immediate stimulation to the senses, especially to vision. I think that stuff that is considered mature often uses a lot of grays and browns and blacks, while animation tends to use a lot more primary colors. And I think animation is just a lot more unhinged and creative with how characters can move, whereas in more adult stuff, it's much more grounded and realistic. And I think as people grow older, they aren't really stimulating their senses as much as they did when they were kids, or at least their senses aren't being as easily stimulated anymore. They become more subconsciously uncomfortable with a sudden barrage of color and light, which is pretty common in animation. I think they get to a point where they stop seeing colorful stuff, they stop watching stuff that really stimulates their senses, so when they suddenly go back to it, it almost kind of hurts them. Like, they don't like what they see. They don't like being exposed to the onslaught of color and fantasy that is typically found in animation. And so I think they associate that kind of stimulation with children and their childhood. And when they get older, they sort of start to feel that they're disconnected from that their childhood was completely separate, so they can't really get involved with that kind of stuff anymore because it doesn't mesh well with what they like now, with what their senses are stimulated by, and kind of like how their brains are wired, I guess. I mean, I'm not a psychologist by any means. This is just a crazy theory. And it's not foolproof either. There's plenty of colorful stuff out there that's geared towards adults, and there's also as much animation that is gritty and dark and meant for adult audiences too. So it's not like colorful stuff is exclusively for kids or animated stuff is exclusively for kids, because that's certainly not the case. But I think the stereotype of animated shows and stuff being childish really comes from more of a subconscious level, and I think it's that lack of stimulation of the senses, especially with vision. I think people kind of grow out of being used to how varied and how abstract animation can be. But hey, that's just a theory. Next question comes from Jack and Daxter 19988. Okay, so you received a letter in the mail stating that you have to move to an island far away from any kind of civilization. There are no towers nearby for cell phone usage, and you cannot swim back home because a bunch of sharks are spreading memes all across the deep blue sea, and you don't want to interrupt them. The letter states that you are free to choose one game, one movie, one CD album, and either a fridge full of fudge or a basket full of cheese. You have 10 minutes to respond to the letter before you are teleported there. What do you bring? Well, this question is oddly specific. Okay, since drowning myself in memes isn't an option apparently, I guess I'm gonna be stuck on this island, and if I had to choose from all of those categories, I guess I'll choose Mario Odyssey as my game. Shrek 2 will be my movie. For my album, I'll pick Yellowcard's album, When You're Through Thinking, Say Yes. And I guess I'll take the basket full of cheese, since that way I can at least get calcium, as opposed to just nothing but fat and sugar, where I'll probably eventually die of diabetes or something. So yeah, I guess I'm ready to go. Next question comes from King Raikou. Would you be interested in seeing implementation of a create a character option in platform game series like Mario, Crash Bandicoot, or Ratchet and Clank? Absolutely. I mean, seeing as how the avatar could do wonders for Sonic, I would love to see what it could do for an actually good game. Although I do wonder how it would work in, say, Mario, for example. I don't have as much experience with Crash Bandicoot or Ratchet and Clank, so I'll just use Mario as an example. I'm not sure how it could actually work. I mean, would you be able to make a cartoony human that's kind of like Mario and Luigi, but looks really weird? Or would you have to choose from an existing Mario species to create your original character, such as making your own Toad, a Yoshi, a Goomba, or a Koopa Troopa, or so on? I think that would be pretty interesting. I'm not sure how that would be implemented into the gameplay. Do I think it's ever going to happen? Hell no. I mean, Sonic and Sega have nothing left to lose, but Nintendo would never allow Mario to associate with Cold Steel the Yoshi or something like that. But I think Sonic Forces, if that's anything to go by, it's that the avatar and creating your own character can be a selling point. I just don't know how it would be implemented in any of these other franchises. Next question comes from Throwback Jr. If you were somehow put in charge of a Sonic reboot from a storytelling standpoint, which characters would you reintroduce/tweak, and how would you do it? A lot of my decisions would probably be basing characters off of what they used to be at certain points, as opposed to just redoing them altogether, because I think at certain points in the franchise's history, the characters were good. It's just that they kind of changed over time into less likable, less respectable characters. I think Sonic is pretty good the way he is now. I mean, he's always been cocky and adventurous and free-spirited, and he's still like that, and that's fine. I'm not saying that needs to be changed. I just think he needs to be written a little bit better, just so he has less cringy one-liners. I mean, I kind of like the way he's being written now, like in Sonic Colors and Generations and everything, but I get kind of tired of his one-liners after a while. Like, the baldy nose hair joke was funny the first time in Sonic Colors, but the fact that they kept using it just got really old. And with Sonic Forces, I feel like they were trying to go for a semi-serious tone, and when Sonic is just cracking random jokes, it feels really out of place and it feels awkward. Like, I remember there's a scene where when Sonic is about to fight Infinite in that jungle place, and he says, "I don't know anything about you, not even your name," and then he proceeds to list off all these random questions like, what's your favorite color, do you like long walks on the beach, or something like that, and it's really out of place. It makes no sense. And I get it, Sonic doesn't take anything seriously, but in that game they were trying to establish some kind of serious tone with Infinite. They were trying to establish some kind of serious threat, and the way Sonic went about like combating him just didn't really make sense. I mean, he can trash talk Infinite, that's fine, but just his humor was so random and so out of left field. I think it was too random. It was too out of left field. It just didn't make much sense. So I would want Sonic to be written a little bit better, where he trash talks a little bit more, as opposed to just spouting off these random cartoon one-liners or whatever. As for other characters, I would make Tails into less of a coward and more capable of being his own independent hero, kind of like he was in the adventure games. Going back to Sonic Forces, it absolutely bothers the hell out of me that he was scared of fucking base level chaos when he's fought like a more advanced form of chaos in Sonic Adventure. And now you're telling me he's afraid of the base form? No, I'm not buying that. So make Tails less of a coward and make him, give him back that growth, make him more of an independent person. I would make Knuckles no longer be so much of a gullible idiot, and I would want him to be more of a competent rival to Sonic. He was the rival before Shadow, so kind of take him back to that point. I would probably base Amy pretty closely off of how she is in Sonic Boom. I like how she's implemented in that spin-off series, I guess. She still has her crush on Sonic, and it's good for a few laughs, but it never is overplayed. Like, she never goes overboard with it. She's still able to have her own character, her own identity, and I think that the mainline series Amy needs to be more like that. I think that it's okay for her to have the crush on Sonic. That's good for a few laughs, but just make that not all that she's about. Give her more to work with. Eggman is absolutely perfect and doesn't need to change in the slightest, especially keeping Mike Pollock. That needs to be the case for all of eternity. And then finally, I want to change Shadow in some way, but I'm not really sure how. Obviously, I would want to make him less edgy, but I'm not sure what to do with him without sacrificing his serious kind of rivalish character personality. I almost picture him as being somewhat of a mentor or a teacher or something. Someone who the other characters can turn to when they need to learn more about the Chaos Emeralds or how Chaos Control works. I think Shadow could be established that he's overcome a lot of difficult experiences and he's been through a lot of hardships in his past, but he has a lot of wisdom and he has a lot of guidance. He's, found peace within himself, and now he's tolerable and he's someone who's wanting to help people, but he's not overly cheerful about it. He's just kind of like a mentor or something like that, just to kind of make him more respectable somehow. Next question comes from Sonic Septile Warrior. What cartoon theme song is your favorite? If I had to narrow it down to 3, they would probably be Batman the Animated Series, the opening to Pokemon Indigo League, and Samurai Jack. Those are the 3 intros I can never skip, no matter how many episodes in a row I'm watching. Next we have a question from the Sonic X9. Do you think that if Super Smash Bros. 2014, aka for Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, was a Wii U only game with no 3DS version, would it have been enough to save the Wii U from being the failure that it was in the end? No, I don't think it would save the Wii U. The system did not fail because of how Smash turned out. Smash had very little to do with the Wii U's reputation. I mean, I'm sure it probably helped, it probably moved systems in some regards, but it certainly wasn't enough to make a noticeable, drastic difference in the Wii U's lifetime sales. I think the Wii U just had crippling fundamental problems right out of the gate that no game released for it, no matter how good they were, was ever going to fix. I just think it was the atrocious marketing. I think that was what really killed the system, what really set the Wii U's death in stone, I guess. I mean, I think the Wii U was doomed regardless of whether or not Smash Wii U had all of 3DS's content. I think that would have helped. I think that would have maybe pushed a few more copies of Smash Wii U, but then again, you probably would have had people complaining that there was no 3DS version when there could have been. You would have had people clamoring for a portable Smash Brothers, and that would make people even more impatient for Smash on the Switch, because then you would finally have portable Smash if there was no Smash 3DS, but that's beside the point. I really think that the Wii U was just doomed from the start, and there was nothing Smash Wii U was ever going to be able to do to truly save it. I think having the 3DS's content would have made the game even more fun. It would have probably pushed a few more units maybe, but it probably would not have made that drastic of a difference. Yeah, I just think as good as Smash Wii U is, I don't think it was ever going to save the system. I think the Wii U was just too poorly executed. It was too far gone. Next question comes from the Professional Narcissist. Mario and Sonic are about to fight to the death. The world is at stake, and you have to give each an anime superpower. What would you give to whom and why? Let's see. Mario gets Bakugo's explosion quirk from My Hero Academia to make his firebrand powers much more deadly, and Sonic will gain the ability to open the 8 gates from Naruto, like Rock Lee, in order to increase his speed and his power even further beyond what they already are now. I think Mario's power would become much more raw and uncontrollable, which would mean any sort of hit that he can land on Sonic would be fatal, but I think Sonic would need to be able to finish him off more quickly before the damage he takes from opening the gates would probably kill him. So I think each side would have their ups and downs with these new powers, but I think it would just escalate the confrontation to more ungodly levels, higher than what Super Sonic or Mario with star power would currently provide. Okay, the next question comes from Liam Biniaris. Because of Sonic Forces, is it our fault that Bubsy is back? Yes, it is completely our fault. We embraced the memes too hard, and now we have to live in a reality where Bubsy made a comeback in the same year alongside Mario, Sonic, and Crash Bandicoot. We dug this hole for ourselves. The next question comes from Ciaon. How much will I have to pay for you to put your cover of the iCarly theme on iTunes? I've had it on my MP3 player since the day it was posted. First of all, I hate you. Second of all, I really hate you. Third, instead of paying me, how about you pay for ear surgery so you can at least try to repair the damage done to them from listening to such an atrocious sound for so long? Oh, and did I mention that I hate you? Okay, and our final question comes from Mediation. Why exactly do you hate the concept of Steve from Minecraft getting into Smash Brothers so much? Are you the one who was asking me about this on DeviantArt a while back? I don't know if you are or not, but whatever. I guess I'll explain it for everyone else here who obviously could not see that conversation. Okay, strap in because this is going to be a long one. First of all, Steve is not a Nintendo character. Sure, that didn't stop other third parties from getting in the game, but they all at least had some sort of relationship or history or connection to Nintendo. Sonic was Mario's closest rival back in the 80s and 90s. Sonic is now releasing exclusive games on Nintendo platforms. And of course there's also the Olympic Games, crossover games, of course there's that too. Pac-Man was included because Namco Bandai developed Smash 4. And Mario has at least worked with Pac-Man in some games, such as Pac-Man Vs. and those arcade Mario Kart games. Mega Man, Ryu, and Cloud's franchises all got their start on Nintendo systems. Snake got in because of a special request from Kojima, and if it weren't for Nintendo, Bayonetta never would have gotten a sequel, or now even a third game. Sure, you could say that Minecraft on the Wii U had that special Mario content pack or whatever it was. I'll give you that. But that doesn't change the fact that Nintendo's platforms were the last ones to get a version of the game after it had been on just about everything else for a while first. Prior to that Mario content pack, Nintendo was given no special treatment from Microsoft or from the developers of Minecraft. So it's not like the franchise was ever working with Nintendo right out of the gate. If they had been, I probably would have changed my tune a little bit. The fact that Nintendo was such a low priority to them, that should not mean that they get their character featured in one of Nintendo's premier franchises. That just doesn't add up to me. Second of all of these guest additions have had some sort of significant impact on gaming as a whole. These are legendary faces. Their names have significant weight to them. They're iconic. Are you really trying to tell me that Steve is as iconic as Pac-Man just because Minecraft has sold a bunch? No. What has Steve contributed to gaming's history and legacy as a whole? Think about what Pac-Man did for arcade games and the general public's acceptance of gaming as an accessible medium. Think about what Street Fighter has done for fighting games, what Final Fantasy did for RPGs, or what Bayonetta is currently doing for combo-centric action games. Minecraft was not the first world-building simulator game, and it probably will not be the last either. Sure, Minecraft has sold a lot, but so did all of the games that just about all of these characters have starred in. The difference is that these games sold because these characters each did something significant or unique with their games. These characters each have a legacy for doing something innovative or different in their genres. They redefined their genres. Their inclusion in Smash Brothers means something significant. It means that Smash Brothers is no longer just a celebration of Nintendo and all things related to Nintendo, but a celebration of gaming as a whole, the entire industry's history, some of the industry's highest points and shining moments and achievements. Now, I will give you this, the future is not set in stone by any means. Maybe in the future Minecraft will build stronger ties with Nintendo as time goes on. Maybe we'll get a new director for Smash 5 who has a different vision for the character roster, one in which Steve is viewed as a significant addition. Hell, maybe Steve is the perfect character to bring in a younger crowd over to Smash, because God knows it's popular with tons and tons of people over the age of 13. So maybe this is Nintendo's way of trying to get those younger demographics and those younger kids playing Nintendo games and trying to get them into Smash Brothers. Maybe Steve is the perfect character for that because he appeals to all those little kids. I don't know. All I'm saying is that I don't view Steve or Minecraft to be as iconic or deserving as any of the characters who are already here in Smash Brothers. Plus, this is a pretty personal jab, but I personally think Steve is just plain ugly. He's an ugly, blocky mess with blurry textures. He would be an absolute eyesore in Smash Brothers next to everyone else if he kept his original appearance, and even if they modified him to fit in with the art style, he would not be true to his nature, to the way he's supposed to look in the game. The way he's designed just aesthetically does not fit in with Smash Brothers. Everybody else could be adapted to it. I don't think Steve could be adapted without changing the way he looks. So, bottom line is, if it were up to me, I would probably never put Steve in Smash. But guess what? Good news, it's not up to me. So if you support Steve for Smash, then please do so. I will not stop you. And if things change and Steve does somehow make it into Smash Brothers someday, I guess I'm gonna have to eat my words then, won't I? So you can wish and hope for him all you want. I will not stop you. Just please, for the love of God, do not try to get me on board with that, because I just don't see it. Whatever potential, whatever reason you think Steve should get in just because he sold 1 million copies, I'm sorry, I don't see it that way. I don't agree with that. I just don't see it. Okay? Simple as that. But keep on wishing. Please do not let me crush your hopes and dreams. That's all I'm saying. Rant over. Okay, that's about all I have time for this time, so thanks again as always for watching. This has been Brawlmaster 012, signing off.